We have a massive Ohio State transfer portal update as the Buckeyes have been linked to the number one player in the portal, and the cherry on top, he plays a position that we need to be adding to in the portal, and we got to break it all down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Columbus Football 365. If you're an Ohio State football fan, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a ton. But let's jump right into the news for today coming from Sports Illustrated. Chaz Coleman, the Penn State edge rusher, is currently ranked number one in 24/7 Sports' transfer portal rankings. Josh Tate explicitly named Ohio State as the likeliest destination and highlighted Coleman's upside as a future star with a physical profile that suits the Buckeyes front. Josh Tate went on to say, Chaz Coleman, big-time edge rusher, is going into the portal. He was a rotational guy as a freshman. Jesse thinks he's going to be the future Abdul Carter, or at least he has the high-end potential to be that. He showed flashes of elite ability this year. Ohio State sounds like the big favorite here. There are some people out there who want that rule where you cannot transfer from one team to another in the same conference, but that rule doesn't exist right now. So he's free to go to Ohio State. He is from Ohio, really good football player, future star, may very well be headed to Columbus, Ohio. So now we have already the number one player in the transfer portal, plays a position of need, and we have a top college football pundit, college football, mind, linking him to the Ohio State Buckeyes as the most likely destination. Now, Chaz Coleman is an edge rusher for Penn State, and some people may be asking if he is the best pass rusher that Ohio State has to offer, and if he is like a really good player, why is he not wearing number 11? Because Penn State has the history of they give their best edge rusher number 11. Started with LeVar Arrington all the way back in the 80s. It was Micah Parsons. It was Abdul Carter. So if this guy was supposed to be the next Abdul Carter, why is he not wearing number 11? And that's because if you look at Penn State's depth chart right now, the number 11, his name is LeVar Arrington Jr. So of course you got to give the number 11 to the son of the original number 11. That's why Chaz Coleman is not number 11. He would be given that distinction. He's earned it, but call the other guy a Nepo baby if you want, but LeVar Arrington's son is there. You have to give him the number 11. So do not even think about that. Eliminate that from your mind. But some things we do have to think about is there is more to learn about this player. Coming from Sports Illustrated, a 4-star recruit, Chaz Coleman ranked as the number 25 edge prospect and number 8 overall player in Ohio in the 2025 class by Rivals, and held more than a dozen Power 5 offers, including Florida State, Michigan State, Kentucky, and Ohio State. He finished the year with 8 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 2 fumble returns for 48 yards. As an Ohio native, coming from Warren, Ohio, transferring to Columbus keeps him close to home and in a program with a consistent track record of developing NFL edge prospects. So this guy is a highly touted recruit, or came in as a highly touted recruit, is currently a highly touted transfer, currently rated as a 98 as a transfer according to 24/7 Sports. They have him as the number one overall transfer in the transfer portal, regardless of position. But looking at his position, he's of course also ranked as the number one edge rusher in the class. We are going to be needing edge rushers as some of our guys are going to be moving on. But quickly, before we talk about those guys, when he was a prospect coming into this year, read it before, but according to 24/7 Sports, rated as a 91 overall, 4-star prospect, rated the 27th edge overall in the class, and the 10th best player out of the state of Ohio. But now, why do we need to continue to add edge rushers to this room? First of all, it's a highly important position, and you can't ever have too many. But second of all, Ohio State is losing edge rushers to the NFL and to just aging out. Our number one sack leader for this season, Caden Curry, is going to be moving on because he is out of eligibility. Last season, we watched a bunch of our best defensive linemen, including Tyleik Williams and JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, all move on to the NFL. And we were tasked with replacing those guys. And this season, we recruited very well. Matt Patricia had a great scheme in place to make the new offensive line that the new defensive line that we have been rolling out this year made us not really miss all that talent that moved on to the NFL. When you are a top program like Ohio State, one of the things that you need to do is be able to replace top talent every single season. Every year, we are one of the top programs when it comes to churning guys out to the next level, but to continue to keep that wheel spinning, you got to bring in guys, you got to recruit at an elite level, and now with the transfer portal, with it becoming a bigger and bigger part of college team building every single season, you have to get really good at the college transfer portal as well. So if we're going to be losing some guys due to eligibility, them running out of eligibility, especially losing our sack leader, Caden Curry, we have to replace that talent. And Chaz Coleman is easily the number one name when it comes to continuing to replenish that talent and exactly what we are looking for. Just another small thing. One of the reasons why he picked Penn State could have been the fact that the Big Ten, the top teams at the teams at the top of the Big Ten, they have extremely high rates when it comes to making the playoffs, when it comes to Oregon, when it comes to Ohio State, usually when it comes to Penn State, and then when it comes to the team up north, those teams, because the Big Ten isn't as deep as the SEC, it is easier to make it to the college football playoffs out of that conference. So if he wants to stay in conference in the Big Ten, Ohio State is a fantastic fit for Chaz Coleman to continue his football career. We have some of the best coaches in all of college football. We don't even have to say that we are going to have the staff to develop him at the highest level, to give him the best chance that he can possibly have to become the best version of himself at the next level, but you got to say it. But speaking of what's coming up next for Ohio State, looking at the odds for our next playoff game versus the Miami Hurricanes, many sports books have us, or I guess all of the sports books have us installed as a 9.5 point favorite. Carson Beck, who was supposed to be playing in the playoffs last season for the Georgia Bulldogs, got injured in the SEC championship game. So this will be now it's going to be his second college football playoff game after winning his debut versus the Texas A&M Aggies in an extremely hostile road environment. We know that Miami has some extremely talented players, including Ruben Bain, including Mesidor. Their edge rushers are absolutely amazing. Carson Beck is a very good quarterback, but he is prone to just straight up missing linebackers. And I believe that Matt Patricia's scheme, where we are changing the looks from pre-snap to post-snap as often as we are, it is really the perfect storm for Carson Beck to have a really bad day in the office playing quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes. Matt Patricia is going to show him one thing. He's going to read that and he's going to know where he's supposed to be going. But then after the ball is snapped, we're going to have Sonny Styles going somewhere. Caleb Downs is going to show up somewhere else. And I do expect Ohio State to rip off at least one interception, maybe even two interceptions for Carson Beck. And Miami they greatly struggled against a very good defense in the Texas A&M Aggies. But Ohio State's defense is even better. So struggling against Texas A&M, it can be easily projected that they're going to struggle more against our defense, although it will be at a neutral site in the Cotton Bowl in Jerry's World instead of at the opponent, which is that first week was a very hostile environment for Carson Beck. But we projected to win by 10. I could really see the game being a whole lot closer than that. The problem with Miami is they are talented enough to beat anybody in the field. So they are talented enough to beat us. Like, this is the team that you don't want to see, but at the same time, they're not consistent enough to win the national championship, because you just know Mario Cristobal is going to mess something up in a 2-minute drill catastrophically somewhere. But with Miami, they are good enough to beat anyone in any one given game. So they pull the upset week 1. An upset is absolutely on the table. Last season, some of the teams that we played, you could easily project what Tennessee was going to give you, especially in a colder environment. You could easily project what Texas was going to give you. You could project what Oregon was going to give you. The thing about Miami is they could come out and lay an absolute egg, but they could come out and they could play up to their talent level, where they have those two All-Americans on the right side of the offensive line, and they have a fantastic true freshman wide receiver in Malachi Toney and a veteran quarterback who has played football at the highest level in Carson Beck. And they could absolutely, they could play all the way up to our level and pull off the upset. So you never know what you're going to get out of Miami. Hopefully it's not good enough to take us down, but that will be determined on Wednesday night. Cannot wait for that football game. It should be an absolutely great one. Although this spread, I think Miami has a high likelihood of covering the spread, but not winning the football game. But that's what I got for this video. If you stuck around this long, I appreciate you taking the time to watch it all the way through. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Buckeyes.